Hi guys, I'm Katie and welcome back to Girls Gone Legal.
Please be advised we are speaking in our own individual capacities and not representing any companies we may work for.
We are not your lawyers, and any information given during this podcast does not constitute as legal advice and is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Enjoy the episode. Hello, guys. We have a super exciting guest here with us today. So, everybody, please welcome Rebecca from Themis Bar Review. So, if you don't already know, which I'm sure you do, Themis is a national bar and MPRE prep company known for structured, data-driven study programs, expert-led lectures, and personalized analytics that help law students study smarter and pass with confidence. Rebecca is here from Themis, an expert, and she's going to walk us through everything you need to know about the MPRE, what it is, the approaches you should take, and everything Themis related. So thank you so much, Rebecca, for coming on today.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, of course. Okay, to be real, I think a lot of our team, me personally, and a lot of our audience hear MPRE, and it's like, I don't know what that is. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to talk about it. Let's just dust the cobwebs off, start right away. Can you kind of talk to our audience a little bit about kind of what the MPRE even is?
Absolutely. So the MPRE is the Multi-State Professional Responsibility Exam. It's a 60-question multiple choice test. You'll take it on a computer at a Pearson VUE testing center, and it is testing you on basic principles of legal ethics. 50 of those questions are scored, and then 10 of the questions, you won't know which ones they are, but they're test questions that they may use on future exams. That's pretty much it in a nutshell. It is definitely a test that requires preparation and dedication to the study process, but it is at its core a pretty simplistic, like the idea of what they're testing you is not as overwhelming as it might first seem. Sure. So even though I said that the MPRE is simple, it's simple in concept. The way you're being asked questions and the types of things that you need to learn and be able to analyze to answer the questions on the MPRE are a little bit challenging. They're going to kind of ask you questions in ways that are designed a little bit to trick you, and that's intentional, unfortunately. And so having a prep course that takes you through, here's what you need to know, here are sample questions, here are full-length practice exams, here are all the things that you need to study for this test, and not have to cobble together your own study plan, figure out what that looks like. Super, super helpful. So our MPRE course consists of video lectures with the famous Professor Zach Kramer, who is probably our funniest Themis professor. He is the one, if you ever see a Themis meme, it's probably Kramer. And so video lectures, practice questions, a full outline, and as well as full-length practice exams for you to take.
Amazing. And I know this is a thing with bar prep, and I know it's a thing with MPRE prep. What specifically do you think makes Themis different than kind of all the other courses? I know people feel like we have messages coming in our DMs all the time about, I'm feeling overwhelmed even picking what prep course I should use. What do you think kind of like the best reason Themis kind of makes it different?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's a couple of things I think that really set us apart. First is that we were the first bar prep company to take everything completely online. And that was a while ago now, but it totally revolutionized what bar prep and studying for these types of exams looks like, made it so that you can study much more at your own pace. Obviously, you still have to do the work, right? Studying at your own pace doesn't mean doing less work. It just means you can do it when it makes sense for you. And you have the capacity then to work on not only your own timeline, but with your own learning style and to take breaks when you need to, etc. So the video lectures are broken up into short segments, somewhere between 15 to 20 minutes long for each video segment. And that's going to cover a specific subtopic of the subject. So obviously we're talking about MPRE course. The scale and the volume of what you're learning is much smaller than what it is on the bar exam, but it's set up in the same way where it's taking you through these video lectures in a regimented way that allows you to take breaks as the student. We also set things up so that you're continuing to do practice throughout the entirety of the process. So you're not going to watch all of the video lectures and then start doing practice. You're going to watch some lectures, you're going to do practice, more lectures, practice, exams, all of that kind of stuff is built into a flow that really helps you build upon your knowledge as you go through.
No, 100%. And I know when I was looking through the Themis site and looking at all the different features, one of the things that really stuck out to me is helping students kind of track their progress. Can you explain a little bit what that looks like?
Yeah, definitely. So there's going to be performance analytics, whether you're talking MPRE or bar review, you're going to be able to see, okay, what questions have I gotten right? What's my average percentage of questions right? What subtopics am I struggling with? But you'll see, okay, I'm getting X percentage of questions right. I'm getting X percentage wrong. You can then target your studying to make sure you really know, I need to study these things versus having to feel like I need to restudy the entirety of a subject. And that's huge, especially when it comes to bar review. And we're talking about MPRE, but the bar review course is so similar. And if you're taking the MPRE, that means you're going to take the bar soon. And being able to dive into your strengths and weaknesses and not feel like, oh my gosh, I need to relearn all of real property, but maybe I actually just need to do some work on mortgages and landlord-tenant. That makes the whole process, one, less stressful, but also gives you a much better use of your time. And so I think that is a thing that sets us apart from other companies significantly.
100%. And I know people will ask all the time kind of how realistic are these questions compared to what I'm going to see on the actual MPRE? Are they similar, real past questions? What questions are Themis using?
All of our questions that are either NCBE licensed or Themis drafted are going to mimic what you see on the MPRE and on the bar exam. Our team of content attorneys that write our questions are some of the smartest people I've ever met. Truly, their knowledge of the law, the nuance with which they understand the law is so fascinating to me. I wish I could be like them. And they're writing questions that are mimicking what you're going to see on the exam. When we're talking bar review, the NCBE only releases a certain number of questions. So to fill in the gaps beyond that, we have to draft our own questions. And the NCBE doesn't always release their hardest questions. So some of the Themis drafted questions might be more challenging, but that's because they're testing you on random nuances of the law and strange ways to think about the rule of law. And that is stuff that will show up on the exam. So you have to be prepared for all of it.
Yeah, no, 100%. Okay, so I guess my next set of questions is more specifically around timing of everything. So first question, I guess, is do you think that there is a specific time in someone's law school journey that they should be taking the MPRE?
That's a great question. I personally am of the camp that you should take it your 2L year. So you do not have to be in your professional responsibility class to take the MPRE. A lot of people think that. Yeah, no, you don't have to. You can make those two things align, and that's fine. But the way you learn for your PR class and that exam is a little bit different in most cases than what and how you need to learn for the MPRE specifically. And so I think of those two as separate things. Taking the MPRE your 2L year, if you study, if you do the work, you are not likely to not pass. But in the event that you do not pass, you want to make sure you have enough runway to take it again. And if you wait until March of your 3L year to take it, that there's a very good chance you will not fail. But if you do, then you're pushing it pretty close to the bar exam. You're pushing it till after you take the bar exam because the next one is in August. So you have to think about it in terms of how does this line up with my plan? And you also don't want to add anything more into your 3L year than you have to. And that's not to say if you're somebody who's in your 3L year and you're like, oh, I'm taking the MPRE in March, fine. I'm not trying to shame anybody, But if you are in your 2L year and you're thinking about it, and you're like, okay, when does this make sense for me? I say get it out of the way sooner rather than later.
Right. So you don't think that it's you must take it after professional responsibility with you'll learn enough in these prep course with the Themis prep course that you don't need to have the ProRes background kind of thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. You could take the Themis MPRE course and have no background in PR whatsoever and still know enough come MPRE exam day to take it.
Amazing. And then when it comes to then timing of actually starting to study and signing up for the prep courses, we'll start there. When do you think students should be enrolling into the Themis MPRE course?
So we open a new MPRE course for every administration of the exam. That's so we have time to do any updates to the law, anything like that. That course opens about 2 months before the exam. You probably don't need to study for 2 months, but if you really want to space your studying out, you can start studying as soon as it opens. We encourage most people to take 3 to 4 weeks to study, and that's with a few hours a day of study time over those 3 to 4 weeks. So you can work within your time frame and make it longer or shorter. What I would say is don't try to cram it into a week. People will do that. That's not fun because you still have to get through enough of the material to know what you need to know on exam day.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think that I've definitely heard stories of I did great in ProRes, or, oh, I'm not worried about it, it's just ethics. And then you start studying 7 days before, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, there's a lot more rules than I thought. Or like, whoa,
Yes.
complex is a lot to digest. So 100%, I think giving yourself more time. And I think a good mentality that people are forgetting is it's kind of like a practice how you'll bar prep, right? Like what works for you? Do you like studying in the mornings? Do you like big long days, or do you like a longer study period and snippets throughout the day? So MPRE is a good chance to be able to practice how you want to study for the bar. So I think use it to your advantage and kind of test the different ways you like to study, because if it doesn't work out, and not that we're speaking this into existence, but like if all of a sudden you don't necessarily pass or get the score you want, then it's okay, how do I shift for the bar exam? So I think it's a good kind of use case for that.
I totally agree with that, actually. I'm so glad that you said that, because the reason we set up all of our materials to be like our bar prep course is so that you get a feel for what it's like to study for the bar, that you know, okay, do I resonate with the way this material is being presented to me? Am I absorbing things the way I need to? And so not only do you need to figure out whether or not, how you like to study, it's a good way to figure out what is my preferred bar prep course going to be. And if you use the Themis MPRE course and you like it, there's like almost no chance you won't like the bar prep course.
If not mistaken, the MPRE course is free with Themis, correct?
It's completely free, yes. Everything that we offer, so our Law School Essentials program, which are meant to be used during your classes, they're supplemental to your doctrinal classes, and our MPRE completely free. The only thing we charge for is our bar prep course.
Amazing. Why not use it at that point?
Yeah.
And I think, honestly, on that note, we've talked about this with bar prep a little bit, but I think this is also with MPRE. Sometimes you can be at a disadvantage when you try to do too much. So when people say like, oh, I'm doing 5 MPRE courses, there is such thing as overkill. And at some point you might be doing too much and not working strategically and efficiently and effectively. So like the numbers prove it. I think it's, if you have a course like this Themis MPRE, which is going to cover everything that's going to be on the MPRE, you shouldn't be worried about, well, I need to do these 7 other supplemental, like sometimes there is overkill is another just thought that I've heard horror stories about.
I think that's also a great point. That is something that I see people do way too often when it comes to bar prep, like trying to pull in outside resources from, they want, I'm not going to name any, but you all know what I'm talking about, right? The additional resources that you can get, and you're basically duplicating things that are already in your bar prep course in most situations, and you're stretching your attention across. Like you have to log into different platforms. You have to focus your attention in different ways instead of sticking with the streamlined thing that is taking you through everything that you need in a regimented way. And I would say that's true of, almost any bar prep course you choose. That's not just Themis. I don't recommend people doing stuff outside of their bar prep course unless they absolutely need to.
100%. And I think I don't know if it's always been, but Themis is also a UWorld company. So you also, if you've used the UWorld questions, and that is also integrated into your Themis prep as well. So you're really covering your bases when you're using these bar prep courses.
You are. And the UWorld questions, we did not have those when I studied for the bar. They're a relatively new addition because we were purchased by UWorld in 2020, and they are amazing. I say all the time, I wish I had those answer explanations because they are so good.
I've played around with them in a couple like school bar prep courses that I'm in right now, just using them to start getting my bar prep going. Scary. But I love that you can also just have it on your phone, and you can just, when you're walking down the street, you're like, my favorite one is like on the treadmill and like just needing something to do on my phone, you can just start doing some questions. And you're 100% right. The explanation is so important because who cares if you got the question wrong if you have no idea why you got it wrong? So
Right.
that feature is so valuable. So that's amazing. Okay, so going into kind of why students struggle and what you've heard in the past, what do you think is the main reason why students kind of underestimate the MPRE?
Oh, that's a good question. Okay, I think that's a multifaceted answer, so I'll try to keep it concise. I think, one, law students have so much going on. There's just so much going on all the time. It's hard to make sense of what is something that truly needs a lot of your attention and what is something that you can kind of skate by to make sure that you do other things that really need your attention. I also think that there is a perception that the MPRE is really easy, which is, as I've said, it's not that hard, but it's not really easy. And so then people wait too long to start studying, and then they get into their study course and they're like, kind of like you said earlier, they're like, oh my gosh, there's way more to learn here than I thought there was. And then they're just not prepared on exam day because of that, when just, maybe an extra hour a day over the course of 2 weeks would have made it so you were completely prepared for the test.
No, 100%. I think it's definitely one of those things where sometimes you don't know how much it is until you get into it. And then when you get into it and it's a little bit too late, then and then you're fighting yourself, right? Because then half the time you're not even studying. You're just worked up about, oh no, I didn't leave myself enough time to study.
Yes.
So it
Yes.
can never be good. And just so, I can pop this in anywhere in the episode, but just so our viewers kind of, if you're hearing this and you're like, am I too late? Just so you guys know, we'll go, so the 2026 dates, there's March 24th, August 11th, and November 12th. So by the time this episode comes out, you still have time to start studying for the March one. And I do recommend you start when you hear this episode. That does give you enough time to get the course going for sure. So
make sure too, sorry to interject, but this is something that people forget a lot, is that the registration dates for the MPRE close well in advance of the test. So you need to make sure that you're registered as soon as possible, and the testing centers are on a first come, first serve basis. So if you want to be close to home and not have to drive, 30 minutes to a testing center, register early. The March one is you can't register anymore.
It's a same thing with accommodations. They are way in advance if you need accommodations. I'm going to put a screenshot in right here just so our audience can see it, because it is way farther in advance than you'd think. So for the March one, you had to have registered in January. August, you have to register in June. Like, there's a lot. It's pretty far in advance. So I'm going to put it right here just so you guys can see, because that's sometimes people's downfall is and you're right. You do have a lot going on in law school, especially in your 2L, 3L year. So it might not be the number one thing on your mind, but you don't want to have to worry about this after the bar. Imagine writing the bar and then like literally 2 weeks later having to do the MPRE. No.
That's awful. You're so exhausted after you take the bar exam. I went home, I slept for like 3 days. Like, you do not want to start studying for the MPRE right after that.
So get in these deadlines. Okay, perfect. We kind of touched on it a little bit, but do you think there's things you've heard in the past for the biggest mistakes you see when it comes to either MPRE or MPRE prep?
Just not studying really is the biggest one, right? Waiting until the last minute. There are certainly some people that can study for the MPRE in 3 days and be fine, but you don't want to find out if you're not that person, right? And underestimating how challenging it actually is. It's totally doable. It is not something that you should be afraid of by any stretch of the imagination, but it's something that absolutely requires your time and attention.
I think you hear it too much that, oh, the MPRE is common sense. It's not. There's too many rules for, like, yes, I get it. Like, it's an ethics exam. There's questions for sure you can use common sense. There's questions that you can't, that are so designed to kind of trip you up that you need to really know the rules that well.
And they're going to ask them in ways that are, not only are the rules confusing, but like they're intentionally asking questions to make you have to really think critically about that particular rule of law and make a very informed decision.
So on the note of just people not studying, okay, we've decided we're going to study, we're going to start today. How many practice questions do you think students should be aiming to complete before they take the exam?
So I don't think I have a number specifically of full practice. I don't think I have a specific number of practice questions that people should complete. But what I will say is that you want to do at least one full-length practice exam in as close to exam-like testing conditions as you can. So 2 hours, no distractions, no phone, right? Just keep everything. I don't know if you can make sure that you're not getting pop-up notifications on your computer, right? Really focus your attention in for those 2 hours. And the other thing, it's less about the number of questions and about the quality of the studying that you're doing. So those answer explanations that I mentioned, those are the same type of structure in the MPRE course. So doing practice questions and then doing active review, because you always want to be, and this applies to bar prep too, you always want to be figuring out what you don't know so that you can go learn it. So if you may have gone through, I don't know, let's just say a 50 question set and you got, let's say, I don't know, 65% of them right, but you're like, I know I guessed on at least 10 of those questions. Well, you need to go figure out whether you knew that answer or if you just guessed, right? If you got a question wrong, but you really thought it was right, dig into that answer explanation and say, okay, well, where was the gap in my knowledge? Because every single thing that you're doing in advance of exam day, either MPRE or bar prep, is practice. And so it's all meant to be a learning tool so that you can perform well on exam day.
Yeah. No, I love that 100%. And the you mentioning doing it as close as you can to test accommodation or to the test setting, that again will go back to try it now because you're going to want to do this for bar prep. So figure out what works for you. And this is like things people don't even think about of like, oh, I'm just going to do it at my kitchen table. And that's like exactly like how it's going to be on test day. Is it? People walking in and out of the kitchen. Like you need to do it like figure out what works for you. Not even, yes, for the MPRE, but also because you don't want to be figuring it out in the 2.5 months you have for bar prep. You want to have that figured out, and that's MPRE is the perfect time to do that, to be like, okay, what do I need to do? Maybe it's like as intensive, like I want to rent out a room in the library. I want to get like a co-working meeting room and like actually dedicate that 2 hours for my practice exams. And as silly as it sounds, figure that out now so that when you do those practice exams for the bar prep, you're doing them effectively. Because like, I mean, you hear that all the time, I'm sure. People have been like, I just didn't do enough bar prep, like practice exams. So figure it out, get the kinks out now while you can.
Yeah.
And then you'll have realistically, you'll just have like a smooth running process when you start bar prep.
Yeah, I think going off of that a little bit too, it's really important to not only figure out the setting that you like to study in, but how you learn best now. So as you're in your 2L and 3L year, think about, okay, what exams did I get my best grades on and how did I study for those? What did I do? Was I handwriting things? Was I making my own flashcards? Was I reading things out loud? Was I making flowcharts out of Post-it notes on the wall? Like, what does that look like? And those are the tactics that you want to utilize when you're studying for the MPRE and for the bar. I see too many students try to like reinvent their entire study process when it comes to bar prep. And I understand why. You're like, okay, well, this is a totally new thing. I need to study differently. I need to make sure that I'm doing everything that I possibly can. But that's a fallacy, because what you need to do is rely on your tried and true study methods, and anything that you can do to take additional cognitive load off of yourself while you're studying so that you can use that cognitive energy towards learning, memorizing, and analyzing the law. that is going to benefit you. Trying to learn a new study method or trying to incorporate study methods that you only used as sort of like accessory methods in the past, that makes your brain work harder on stuff that it doesn't need to be working harder on. And you're going to be tired because of it.
No, that makes so much sense. Like I'm saying it out loud so I can take it in myself, because have definitely fallen into that trap of like, this is a hard exam, so I need to flashcard. And I'm like, I've never been a flashcard person, so why would all of a sudden I think that's going to work for me? So stick to what you know, and the MPRE is no different, I think. It's like, if you study a certain way, don't change that. And I think that's like the benefit too of the MPRE structure, the Themis structure, because it's like lecture based. It is no different than like taking a class, right? Like, you will watch the lecture. Yes. How would you do it at school? Would you take notes? Would you just listen? Would you prep stuff? I know they have like the MPRE booklet you get to follow along with. Like, there's certain parts of it that are so valuable. Use it, and use it the way you would if it was any other class. So 100%. That's a great point that I can it's the throw everything and see what sticks.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you cannot, you don't have time to be doing that. So
you do not. If you're graduating and then you're starting to study for the bar right after graduation, and let me tell you, the week leading up to graduation, you're having a good time, right? Like, you're enjoying yourself. You're hanging out with your friends. Your school will probably put on events. There's going to be all kinds of stuff going on. Then your family's in town or whatever for graduation day, right? Like, you're doing so much, and then you have to jump right into bar prep. So yeah, make it easier on yourself wherever you can.
We're not trying something new. We're jumping into what we know.
Yes.
For sure. And do you think then on that note, is there a specific like 1 week study plan? Like, we'll talk about MPRE specifically, but like, is there a copy paste perfect 1 week study guide of what you should be doing? Or do you think it kind of just changes based on who you are and how you study?
Well, I think when it comes to the MPRE, regardless of how you study, you're kind of doing the same thing as everybody else, just because it's not that much, right? You have lecture videos for one subject. You have the fill in the blank lecture handout that you mentioned for one subject. You're answering practice questions about one subject. So the study process there's not that much room for variety in there. When it comes to bar prep, I think that's a little bit different. But what I will talk about is, in both our MPRE course and our bar prep course, we have what we call a study planner. So you can put in the days per week that you want to study and the hours per day, and it'll space that out across all of the weeks. So like, you say, I want to study, for MPRE, let's say you want to study 3 hours on a Monday, 3 hours on a Wednesday, 3 hours on a Friday, right? Mm-hmm. So 6 hours a week dedicated to MPRE. The study planner is going to tell you, okay, based on your chosen start date, because you can put your start date whatever day in the future you want it to be, you are either going to have enough hours in that plan to get through the course material, or you're not. And so it'll give you those kind of guardrails, and then you can work the schedule around your own plans, right? If you're like, okay, well, I'm in an externship for 6 hours a day on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I know I'm not studying, right? So you're able to kind of flex it that way. But the directed study program, so there's the study planner and then there's directed study. Directed study takes you through the tasks in the course, both MPRE and BAR, in a specific order. That's the order that we've put them together to get you through the material in a way that we believe works for the vast majority of students. Now, that said, if you know your strengths and weaknesses, and like, for example, when I was studying for the bar, I was totally fine on essays. I almost said MPREs. MBEs were a little harder for me. So I was following directed study, but then I was doing extra MBE practice through what we call flex study, which gives you access to everything in the course whenever you want it. So there's a lot of ways for you to adapt. Do I think that there's a perfect study plan that like generally works for everybody? It's what directed study is going to give you, right? But you have to also work within your own constraints and learning style. So you can do that and kind of get your hand held in a way that takes that extra cognitive energy out of the equation for you, and also lean into your strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah. And I think that's like, I would love to put a screen grab of what that looks like, because I think that was something that was so valuable to me during MPRE prep, was the fact that I'm such, like, I say this every episode, but like, I'm such a schedule person. Like, I have so much going on at all times. Like, if it's podcasting, school stuff, work stuff, it's just like, whoa, that was such a big relief that I didn't realize, was being able to just put in like you get to literally put in, I want to study on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday from this time to this time. And they can change every day. So you could literally work it. Like I had it worked around my school schedule of like, I'll study after this class, before this one. And the Themis platform will literally put in what lectures to be watching and slot them into each time slot, so you don't have to think about it. You just log in, you open up your schedule, and it's literally like a school schedule made for you. So that's taken off your plate. And I don't think you realize how much that helps until you have to have done it yourself. And then you're like, wait, and you're like, it's literally like you're doing math. You're like, okay, I have 7 more videos to do, and when can I do, like the fact that it does that for you, and I love that it adjusted. So if there was days where it was like, I just can't do it today. Like I can only do an hour. Perfect. It shuffles it, it adjusts it, it makes it digestible. And I think that's something that people should, one, take advantage of, but two, that to me was a huge selling point of why it's like, this makes the most sense for me.
Yeah, I totally agree. I love that feature. I think as law students kind of want to have control over everything, which I get, right? I was a law student, right? That's no shade. I get it. But there's certain places where you kind of need to let go of that control to make things easier on yourself. And this allows you to like have control over the days and the amount of hours, and then the program does everything else for you.
No, 100%. Okay, so 2 last questions to finish us off. But so the first one's, what is your number one piece of advice for somebody taking the MPRE next month?
I mean, study. Truly, it's just study.
No, I think it's overlooked too much that do it. And again, like, even if it's just to practice studying, it's worth it. Like, you don't want to, and if it scares you enough, do it because you don't want to have to be doing it after the bar exam. That sounds terrible. Please don't. Okay, and then what would you just say to somebody who has failed the MPRE before and is writing it again?
Oh, yeah. Well, I want to be so clear that there's no shame in failing the MPRE, like at all. I know some very, very, very smart people who studied and still were not successful because either they got really nervous on exam day or they didn't study in ways that were the most effective for their learning style, right? The good news is you can retake it. And as long as you've set yourself up timing wise without like being on a super time crunch and it's like, oh, well, I have to have this so I can get sworn into the bar for my job, right? Like that's when you're kind of running into some issues. You can retake it as many times as you need to. If you did sit for the MPRE and you were unsuccessful, I say figure out why, right? Try to determine, was it because I didn't understand the black letter law, or was it because I was anxious on exam day, or was it because I didn't study enough, or right? What does that look like? And then adjust your process for the next time you sit for it accordingly.
I think that's a great point. I think what people overlook a lot of times, and that's why I loved what you mentioned about like trying to simulate exam day as best as you can. It is a bit of an intense day. Like you go into these testing rooms, they're very like you're following these very intense rules. You're putting your stuff in these lockers. They give you a slip of paper. They literally have to pat you down, make sure you have nothing going into the room. You go into this room, you're next to like 20, 30 other people with headphones. Like it's an intense day. You're like, you're in a 99% of the time, you're in a building you've never been in before. Like, make sure you're getting there early so you're not, like, running around like a chicken with your head cut off. Like, there is things that you need to think about before you go into it. So I think that's a really good point about just kind of looking back and figuring out why you weren't as successful as you wanted to be. Was it the process? Was it the day? And then how can you fix that, right? And I think sometimes it does just mean, like, make the change. If you tried to do it before and you just did it based off your professional responsibility class, maybe that wasn't the right thing. That's the other thing people got to remember. When you're taking a professional responsibility class, I always say this is for any class. You're not taking a class, realistically. You're taking the professor. You're taking the version of that class that professor wanted to teach. So that means that sometimes there are gaps. There's rules that they just left out. There's sections that they didn't have time for. You can't go into the MPRE thinking that was necessarily enough. I think that's why something like the Themis prep course is nice, because you know that once you finished it, if you have finished the course, you've covered your bases, which is at that point that's the best you can do. You can cover all your bases and learn all of the material. So the other thing that I forgot to mention, don't forget to check out what your state MPRE pass rate is because, or what score pass?
Cut score, yeah.
It's going to be different. So I know now that I've been thinking about all like the different states that I would like to sit in, it's going to change. So just make sure you've looked at that ahead of time, because you could be excited that you have passed and then all of a sudden you needed 2 points higher for a different state. So just keep an eye on that, especially if you're planning to sit for a bar in a different state that you go to school in. People will start telling you what the number is, and then all of a sudden you realize it is different. So definitely look that up.
And your MPRE score is valid for 2 years after you take the exam. So that's something to know as well.
Good to know. Amazing. Well, is there anything else Themis related that you want to let our audience know about beforehand? I know I will let them know right now that we are going to have a super fun bar-focused episode in the later coming this season. So that's going to be super exciting. But, I mean, is there anything else from you, Rebecca?
I think just take advantage of the free resources that we offer. I know we talked about those briefly, but we have our MPRE course, and then our Law School Essentials program is video lectures, practice questions, practice essays, and full outlines, as well as what we call key concept sheets that are shortened outlines for all of your first year bar tested courses, and then a good number of your upper level doctrinal courses as well. So those are one of my favorite things that we offer. They're a great way to get some additional exposure to the law that you're already learning. Oftentimes having somebody that's not the professor you sit in class with every day explain the law to you can like help things start to fall into place, especially if you're, I don't know, let's say you're struggling with hearsay, right? I know I struggled with hearsay. The Themis Law School Essentials helped me so much in making sense of something that I was just like not connecting with in class. So highly recommend checking that out. And as we already discussed too, all of our stuff is set up like our bar review course. So it's a great way to trial, do I like these professors? Do I like this platform? Do I like the way they're giving me the information? And that way, when it comes time to make a decision about bar prep, because it's a big deal. You're going to spend a lot of time with your bar prep course, for better or for worse. And so you want to pick one that you, I'm not going to say bar prep is fun. It's not, but one that is like less not fun.
100%. One more thing. I'm like, ideas are popping in my head. Whoa, in my brain here. You can get the physical MPRE fill-in booklet, correct? Usually, are they given out at your schools?
Yes, so they are at your Themis tables at your schools. If you're a school that does not have people tabling for Themis, you can email info@themisbar.com. And I think they just charge like a $10 shipping fee if they have to send it to you from the office. But if you can get it at your school, it's completely free.
Amazing. And if you guys have any other questions about it, we're going to have everything linked in the episode details. It's going to be in our bio on all of our social medias, and you can always find everything on our website. So we'll be linking all of the resources you need from MPRE to bar prep through Themis. So we want to thank you so much again, Rebecca, for coming on today, and thank you, Themis, for sponsoring today's episode. If you guys have any other questions, any specific questions, feel free. You guys know the drill. DM us. Email us. We have a spot on our website, and we can pass them along to Rebecca and hopefully get these questions answered for you guys. Thanks again for coming on. Thank you for being our guest today. In the meantime, you guys know the deal. Follow us on all our socials, and we will see you in 2 Mondays from now. Stay sharp, stay stylish, and stay legal. Bye, guys.